Hey coaches, Coach Simpson, appreciate you tuning in to my YouTube channel. This week's theme has kind of been organization. I talked earlier this week about how to build our buck hurdles. If you didn't watch that one, you can kind of go back and look at it. It's one of my favorite pieces of equipment. If you're not using these, man, they're the cheapest, best piece of equipment we have, even if you're not going to run buck sweep, but you're going to run other drills. It's a very good thing to use, and it's on there. You can kind of go back and look. I talked about organizing your practice and your coaches meetings also. Got a lot of materials on this because I get asked a lot about this, about different ways to do different things. A lot of young head coaches or a lot of guys that want to be a head coach, or even like me, I steal from everybody. And so trying to get head coaching materials is always something that's important. So I have put a lot of things at fbcoachsimpson.com. Okay, so make sure you go check that out. It's the materials section. There's all kinds of templates, coaching manual, agendas for meetings, just general things you can get on there that may be able to help you in your walk as a coach. Today we're going to talk about game management, and I've got a lot more in-depth materials on CoachTube or my website. You can go get them. But we're going to talk real quickly about the things you need to think about for game management. Some of these are obvious, some of these maybe not so obvious. You know, COVID this year caused me to have to be super detailed on the sideline, more so than usual, and so it really caused me to create some different agendas and templates and all that stuff. And again, that's on my site if you'd like to get it. First thing you got to figure out is what your sideline is going to look like. You know, where the player is going to stand. If you've got a large team, are you offense, defense? Are you moving? Where's special teams going to meet? You know, you don't want to hurt people following the ball and you can't get guys you need. Okay, so what is that going to look like? And inside of that, which coaches are going to be on the headsets talking? Okay, well, ironically, I've got a free newsletter coming out this weekend, Headsets Magazine, but that is an important piece of equipment, especially if you're on a larger staff, especially if you're using somebody in the booth. Being able to communicate is key. So make sure you understand who's where, who's doing what, who's talking. What are you supposed to be talking about? Okay, that all needs to be addressed before the first game, or you're going to have a lot of frustration. Whose eyes go where is a lot of times what we want to talk about. Okay. Players, okay, who's going to handle player management, sideline management, get back coach, injury coach, equipment breaks coach? If you don't have a guy that's doing that, who's doing that for you? That needs to be addressed, assigned, and before you play a game, or it's going to be chaos down there. Who's got the depth charts? Who's in charge of, you know, Johnny's hurt, he's our tight end, but he's also our long snapper, and he's on the whatever team. Well, that guy's got to communicate to the offensive coordinator. He's got to communicate to the special teams coach. He may have to communicate to the defensive coach if he's on a defensive thing. And then that depth chart's got to be created. And then it's got to be communicated to players, because we don't want to have 10 guys on the field and burning a timeout in the middle of the game. So some coach has got to be assigned to that. And that's got to be a very good communicator. And that kind of goes back up to our headsets here. He's got to be a guy that can talk to everybody. All right? TV's big for us, guys. We just went to Sky Coach. I'm a big fan of them. Heather was great to work with, and I'm excited about using their system. But there's a lot of systems you can use, so I'm not just telling you to use them. You need to have a system. We feel that what we were using wasn't very good for us, so we've kind of made the move to them. But that piece of equipment where you are now, if you're not in the state of Texas, able to stream the game, watch the game live, and make in-game adjustments is a massive advantage. And if you're not using this, that's money I would figure out a way to raise and a way to spend, and I would make sure it's on a good piece of equipment, because there were several times last year I tried to be a really good person, but I said a whole lot of dadgummits because that wasn't working. So now we've moved on to Sky Coach because I've heard great things about them. Your halftime adjustments. I've got something on my website that talks about how we do that, but you need a structure. What at this time this happens, at this time this happens, at this time this happens. We go warm up here. Who's in charge of that? How's that going to look? It's going to be unique for your team. If you'd like to see what we do, you can go to my website. End of the game. Okay, that's something we don't really think about very often. How's the end of the game going to look? Especially with COVID this year. The first game we played, I didn't think about that at all. Got there and went, oh, I don't think we're supposed to be doing all this stuff. Well, I've got to get that set. Who's going to be at the front of the line shaking hands? Who's at the back of the line making sure nobody's acting up? Okay, who's going to help the players get off the field? Who's going to make sure equipment stuff is getting gathered up? If you don't address that early, you're either really upset because you lost and having to deal with it, or you're really excited that you won and you still have to deal with that. So it needs to be taken care of before the game happens. And I tell you, even as a coach who's been a head coach now for a while, I botched that first couple of games even this year. So it's something you need to think about as you're working on organizing. Of course, there's a whole plays you call and all that stuff. And that's for another session, or you can go on my website. I've got plenty of stuff for that too. Appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, I'd appreciate if you'd like this video, subscribe to this channel. I'm trying to grow this YouTube channel. Hopefully continue to put out as much content as I can. Feel free to reach out to me, fbcoachsimpson@gmail.com. Thanks for your time.